Damn it! More and more zombies surged towards me like a tidal wave. The excruciating pain, as intense as the frenzy of Crazy Thursday, gnawed at every nerve in my body. Fear and despair, like the erratic nine-turn intestine-style snake, like move, completely engulfed me. Ring, ring, ring. The alarm clock rang, and I jolted awake, sitting up whoosh from the bed. Cold sweat drenched my clothes, and my hair stuck wetly to my face. I must have looked like a drowned rat at this moment, in a most wretched state. But I had no time to care about such things. I didn't even bother putting on my shoes and rushed barefoot to find my phone, which was tossed among a pile of messy clothes. At this moment, Deng Zex's deliberately lowered bubble-like voice came from behind. Honey, what's wrong? Why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? Aren't you tired enough yet? Ugh. His voice was so greasy that it could stick to one's face, disgustingly so. It was evident that the cute young guy persona the company had created for him had truly brainwashed him. In the past, I just laughed off this persona, but now I think it's extremely accurate. Deng Zexu is a white-eyed wolf, and he's really despicable. Yes, he's also young, and every word suits him perfectly. Recalling the way he walked towards me with an axe and a knife, grinning fiendishly, as if he was going to chop me up and cook me, I felt a wave of nausea and vomited immediately. Clutching my phone, I ran to the bathroom and vomited until I was dizzy. After rinsing my mouth, I splashed cold water on my face and glanced at the time on my phone. It was 3:35 a.m. on April 17, 2058. The lingering pain in my body reminded me that it was all real, not a dream. I was back 3 days before the zombie outbreak. When I finally calmed down a bit and dragged my weak body out of the bathroom, Deng Zexu was already sitting on the bed, deliberately exposing a large part of his chest and looking at me meaningfully. He said, Honey, I was so exhausted just now. Don't I deserve a reward? I have my eye on a pair of sneakers. Before he could finish, I interrupted him. It only took a few seconds. Are you that tired? Sure enough, Deng Zex's face darkened instantly. I had never spoken to him so bluntly before. After all, I loved him and cared about his feelings in the past. I had been with him for a full 7 years, from when he was a penniless wage earner to now, and 18 line has been. In the past, he had that drive and pride despite being poor. Now all that was left was his good looks, filled with calculation, philistinism, and false pretense. Perhaps still thinking about those sneakers, Deng Zexu actually forced himself to hold back his anger and crawled towards me with a fake smile. He said, Honey, what's wrong with you? Are you angry that I didn't care about you just now? I quickly made a stop gesture and took 2 steps back to distance myself from him, saying, Don't come over. I just vomited and I stink. As expected, Deng Zexu immediately stopped in his tracks. This scoundrel had developed intermittent cleanliness in the past 2 years, which was actually situation-based cleanliness. He couldn't stand even a hint of smell from me, but for his agent Lu Han, he could tolerate things beyond human limits. This Lu Han was a top-notch trickster, constantly filling Deng Zex's head with the power of connections and the unspoken rules of the entertainment industry. And stupid Deng Zexu actually believed it, always thinking that serving her well would make him famous and successful. I told him countless times to calm down and study hard, but he wouldn't listen, and instead laughed at me for being naive. In my previous life, when the zombie outbreak occurred, Deng Zexu was recovering at my house due to some matters and Lu Han came along. These 2 scoundrels ate and drank at my expense. In the end, because there wasn't enough food, they actually set their sights on me. They drugged me. If I hadn't used my last bit of strength, and would rather jump off the building to feed the zombies than let them have their way, I might have really become their food. Thinking of that despair, I wished I could kill this ungrateful and insensible beast in front of me right now. However, this is a society ruled by law, and everything has to follow the rules. Moreover, since heaven has given me a chance to start over, rather than killing them directly, I want them to taste the pain I endured, and I want to get it back from them multiplied. 3. How could I dislike you? I don't have enough time to feel sorry for you. Deng Zexu, as if having made up his mind about something, suddenly defied difficulties and moved a bit closer to me. Well, this was something I hadn't expected. Of course, I wasn't so naive as to think that he had suddenly changed his nature and discovered my goodness. Instead, I believed that when things were abnormal, there must be something amiss. This scoundrel must have some ulterior motive, and most likely, it was not just about a pair of shoes. Honey, I just remembered. The demolition compensation for your house in the urban village should arrive in the next few days, right? As expected, in terms of disappointing me, Deng Zexu never let me down. Looking back, he had said this sentence before, but it was the next morning. It seemed that my waking up in the middle of the night had more or less accelerated the process of this event. Not yet. I asked the bank, and they said it would be 3 days later. In fact, the money was already in my card, But I would never, like in my previous life, hand the money over to him and let him spend it on who knows what. Thinking of this, I was really a bit curious. With such a large sum of money, how on earth did the scoundrel spend it? 3 days later, Deng Zexu retreated in disappointment, and his face immediately fell. He was truly a master at changing his expression. In the past, I might have been a bit nervous and rushed to comfort him when he was unhappy. But now, whether he was happy or not, I just wished he would drop dead immediately. I'm a bit tired. You can leave first. I lifted my foot and kicked the clothes he had thrown under the bed. The intention of expelling him couldn't have been more obvious. Deng Zexu finally noticed my change, but before he could open his mouth, I started my act. If you don't leave now, you'll have to leave tomorrow morning anyway, or you might be photographed. It's too early for you to wake up, and it would be so hard. If Lu Han finds out that you came to my place, she will definitely scold you again. I don't want you to be scolded by her. Send me the link to the shoes. I'll buy them for you. They should arrive in about 3 days. I arranged everything neatly, combining false sweetness and empty promises. 2 minutes later, Deng Zexu left my house in a hurry. The moment the door closed, I immediately took out my phone and started shopping on JD, choosing all items with next day delivery. Barreled water, instant noodles, river snail rice noodles, bread, soy milk powder, black sesame paste, snacks, etc. These were all things I liked. 90 type compressed biscuits, dried meat, chocolate bars, dried fruits, canned fruits, etc. These had long shelf lives, took up little space, and were convenient to handle and store. Toilet paper, disinfectant, quilts, winter clothes, power banks, hand warmers, electric blankets, flashlights, etc. These were all things that might be used in daily life. In addition, I also bought several drones, high-power binoculars, and various monitoring and listening devices. These would be my safety guarantees and sources of mental entertainment in the future. Without them, how could I watch and hear the reality show of Deng Zexu and Lu Han in the apocalypse? 4. After taking care of these matters, I calculated the time difference. My best friend he and I, who was overseas, should be waking up around this time, and her precious phone was probably turned on. Unexpectedly, before I could call her, she sent me a piece of news. Weibo's trending topic: real octopus. A failed star's love affair, stepping on 8 boats. Immediately after the phone rang. Lingling, have you seen the news? That bastard Deng Zexu actually dared to cheat. Besides you, he's dating 7 others. A master of time management. No wonder his career is going downhill. It turns out that useless guy has spent all his energy on this. He's the most popular he's ever been today. A failed star's love affair, making it to the headlines with the number of his lovers. The comment section is full of people asking who he is. Then came a string of standard swear words. He and I cursed fiercely, and by the way, showed me her rich vocabulary. By the way, in the chat records exposed in the news, which one is you? Why are you using a fake account to date? I don't recognize the profile picture. Facing Hini's curiosity, I was silent for a moment and then replied calmly. None of them. I'm the 9th shadow. 3 seconds later, Hini's burst of laughter almost deafened my ears. Sorry, I've received strict training. No matter how funny it is, I won't laugh. Unless, I can't help it. Ha 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 ha. As the hearty laughter stopped, he and I finally calmed down her overly cheerful mood, and I quickly took the time to explain the current situation to her. It was no longer realistic to ask her to return to the country now, not to mention that plane tickets were hard to get. Even if she got one, she would have to go through quarantine upon arrival, and her situation would be even more dangerous. First, I told he and I everything I could remember from my previous life, and then I shared with her the survival guide I had made overnight. He and I had known me for many years, and naturally understood that I wouldn't joke about such things. She immediately became serious. After the call, I went upstairs to confirm that the construction workers had started working. Then, I looked at the time and headed straight for the security booth downstairs. It was the time for the security guards to change shifts, and I quickly found 2 community security guards who were about to get off work. I handed them 2 bottles of water, 2 packs of cigarettes, and stuffed each of them a few hundred yuan red envelope. With a big smile, I said, 2 big brothers, I bought a lot of things online. I'm a girl and I'm not strong enough to carry them, and I'm in a hurry to go out now. Can you 2 do me a favor? Money makes the mare go, and no one slaps a smiling face. They took the things, looked at me, and patted their chests to assure me that they would arrange the things neatly. Of course, I understood that letting others know that I was stockpiling a large amount of goods would pose a safety risk, but the problem was, I wouldn't be living in that house later. A reality show, with only Deng Zexu and Lu Han as the actors would be too boring. I had to find some supporting actors, right? After finishing these things, I looked at the numerous missed calls from Deng Zexu on my phone, and finally clicked to call back. Come out. Let's meet. 6. Since there was construction work at home, if I wanted to meet Deng Zexu, I had to choose another place. I was very thoughtful, and found a hotel near the crew where Deng Zexu was. Not long after the news about him broke, there were fan photographers and paparazzi everywhere. I booked a room in advance, and went in to set up the cameras. Then I sent Deng Zexu the room number, and waited for him to come. While waiting for Deng Zexu, based on the positions of the cameras, I selected the door as the best shooting angle, and set the stage there. Fortunately, Deng Zexu didn't let me down. He must have rehearsed before coming. He was full of drama. As soon as he entered the door, he knelt down in front of me with a thud dash. I really only have you left. I nodded expressionlessly. Well, the other 8 have all been exposed. It's time for me, the ninth shadow, to make an appearance. No, it's not like that. Those are all misunderstandings. Deng Zexu crawled on his knees all the way to me and started crying while hugging my thigh. I subconsciously pulled his hair to push him away, and then kicked him further away to avoid getting contaminated by something unclean. After this smooth set of actions, I regretted it a bit. All of the above were just instinctive reactions of my body. If I wanted to set a trap for him, I still had to act a bit. Misunderstandings? Are you sure those are misunderstandings? What on earth am I to you? One of your many honeys? Or an invisible honey? Who doesn't even deserve to have a name? As I spoke, my voice started to choke up, and a few tears squeezed out. Seeing this, Deng Zexu immediately became anxious. He wasn't feeling sorry for me. He was just worried about how to deceive me. Sure enough, what he said next was all big news. Those women were all introduced to me by Lu Han. Some are fans with very good financial conditions, and some are contacts who can help introduce resources. You're different from them. Over the years, you've already become like family to me in my heart. You're my sister. You're my only sister. Hearing the same words again in this new life, I still felt a bit unbearable. Seeing that this little yellow duck had confessed almost everything and the video material had been collected, I also started to move on to the next step. Strip him of his equipment. Sister believes you. Sister will definitely stand by your side. Do you remember? I said I would always accompany you on the path of success. I suppressed my nausea and recalled the nonsense I had said when I was young and ignorant. On the surface, I still looked sincere. Disaster sometimes gives birth to good fortune, and good fortune sometimes breeds disaster. Think carefully. Maybe this is also an opportunity. Looking at Deng Zex's confused look, I knew that this person who had skipped a lot of school definitely didn't understand the first half of the sentence. So I changed to a more straightforward way to deceive him. 3. Leaving aside other things, this is the first time you've been on the hot search, right? Didn't Lu Han say that to become popular, one should stop at nothing? Even being infamously popular is a form of popularity. In my opinion, you should seize every opportunity, and use all means to make yourself stand out while this heat lasts. Deng Zex's eyes lit up immediately. I knew that this fool must have been tempted. Under Lu Han's daily influence, this was exactly the kind of thing that appealed to him. If I were you, I would invest all the funds at hand, including real estate, and turn them all into cash. Hire the best public relations team to wash your image and build momentum in the shortest time possible. Go all out and take a gamble. Since I wanted to strip him of his resources, I had to do it thoroughly. To dispel Deng Zex's misgivings, I then soothed him a bit more. What are you afraid of? Anyway, I'll be with you no matter what. Here's the key to my house. I'll be your backing. After this set of maneuvers combining false sentiment and empty promises, Deng Zexu was completely under my control. I wanted him to bet everything, then watch all his efforts go to waste, and finally have no choice but to go to the safe haven I had carefully prepared for him. He had to pay back the pain I had endured, doubled. Not a single step less. Sister, you're so good to me. I don't have anything to repay you with. Otherwise, right now. As Deng Zexu spoke, he started taking off his clothes. This was something I hadn't expected. I wanted to strip him of his resources, not this kind of equipment. I had no interest in this little yellow duck, and I didn't need those few seconds of his performance. So I quickly stopped his inappropriate behavior and sent him away. There are fan photographers and paparazzi outside. We're not in a hurry. You go ahead and get busy. Sister is waiting for your good news. I pushed him out the door, and my world returned to peace. I heaved a sigh of relief and started exporting the surveillance video and editing it. At the same time, the community security guard sent me a message. Beauty, we've helped you bring the things back home and arranged them neatly. Item pictures.jpg. I replied briefly and then went to sleep. Tomorrow there were still 2 tough battles to fight. 7. Due to the excessive running around before, when I woke up again, it was already 2:30 p.m. I returned home, first confirmed the supplies, and found that the whole room was already filled with things. Then I went upstairs to check the progress of the project. I had to say that driven by interests, human potential was limitless. The foreman came over excitedly to claim credit, and led me to inspect while explaining. I reckon it won't be until tomorrow. It can be completed tonight. Don't worry about the quality. I've been watching them work. After walking around, I could see that they had really put their hearts into it. The rooftop part was all done, and the planting area and the breeding area were clearly divided. The platforms had been set up, and all that was left was to fill them with things. I first went to the vegetable market, and bought a lot of live fish, and then picked some easy-to-raise seedlings and seeds. By the time everything was settled, it was almost evening. I turned on my phone, and the news about Deng Zexu popped up first. Shocking reversal. Depressed idol framed. Immediately after, there were various topics comprehensively washing Deng Zexu. There were many high-energy scenes in it. Look, this is the 3 good student certificate Deng Zexu received in the 1st grade of primary school. Certificate.jpg. God, Big Brother is so excellent. Doesn't this prove that he is an upright person? Such an excellent person is now being cyber-bullied, and has developed depression. I want to ask those who are harming him, can you have a clear conscience? Depression medical record.jpg. So heart-wrenching. The beautiful, strong, and miserable persona is awesome. I watched this show expressionlessly. Compared to brainless fans, I believe this was the work of paid trolls. The failed star Deng Zexu didn't have many fans originally. Only paid trolls would still be trying to build an image at this time. Anyway, Deng Zexu must have spent a fortune going all out for this gamble. Looking at the rising popularity, without guessing, I knew that Deng Zexu must be extremely happy now, and would probably celebrate all night with Lu Han. I sincerely wished them joy at this moment. After all, the first step from heaven to hell was to send him to heaven first. At 10:30 p.m., the project was completed. After seeing the construction workers off, I quickly dialed Hemi's phone number. First, I confirmed the progress of her security and stockpiling work. Then I told her the whole story, and asked her to help send out the video I had recorded and edited in the hotel at around 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. This person was in the fan circle, and was more familiar with people in the media. It was perfect to entrust this to her. After the call, I started setting up hidden monitoring and listening devices in this house. I attached great importance to my entertainment life in the apocalypse, so I arranged everything very carefully. Then in the middle of the night, I became a hard-working little bee, and used a cart to transport all the supplies to the 11th and 12th floors. After all this, I was exhausted. I set an alarm for 12:30 p.m., and went to sleep. I wanted to be the first to taste the melon tomorrow. 8. At 12:30 p.m., I got up sleepily, turned on my phone, and started seriously following the gossip. Currently, the news of Agent Lu Han strongly white, washing her artist was still on the hot search list. In the video, Lu Han was indignantly saying that she would pursue the matter, and sue those who had slandered Deng Zexu to the end. Before long, the news of Deng Zexu kneeling and apologizing shot up to the top of the hot search list. In the video, Deng Zexu was crying bitterly, not only admitting everything, but also clearly revealing Lu Han's pimping activities. The two videos, one after the other, formed a strong contrast. For a while, even the dubbing and remixing area on Bilibili was abuzz with various creations. I knew that Deng Zexu's acting career was over, and Lu Han's career was also over. But this was not the end. The more exciting part was always in the next second. My phone vibrated. As expected, it was Deng Zexu's call. Are you fucking crazy? Well, he was quite a screamer. I have nothing now. You want to ruin me? You want to kill me? My prediction was spot on. Where are you? Are you at home? Just you wait for me. Good, his domestic violence tendency was also revealed. I'm telling you, Zexu and I are finished and you won't have it easy either. This time it was Lu Han's voice. What a harmonious duet. I calmly hung up the phone and stood in front of the window on the 11th floor waiting. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Deng Zexu and Lu Han to appear. The two of them were aggressive. Clearly, they hadn't been influenced by the harmonious socialist atmosphere. They didn't pay attention to spiritual civilization at all. Their swearing scared away several children. When I saw them enter the building, I changed my viewing angle and returned to the computer desk to watch the indoor surveillance. Deng Zexu had the key I had personally given him, so he could rush into the house without hesitation. Unfortunately, he came up empty-handed. After a fit of venting, he and Lu Han found nothing. After Deng Zexu called me several times and was rejected, he took Lu Han and wanted to leave. But I knew that they couldn't leave anymore. No one knew where the zombies came from, but I remembered that the first scream I heard came from the amusement park downstairs. Even from the third-floor height, it was clearly audible, because it was a heart-rending cry of fear and pain, just like what I had experienced. 9. Zexu, did you hear something? Lu Han pulled Deng Zexu, who was about to go out, and walked towards the window. I deliberately left the window open when I left, so they should be able to hear more clearly. The spread of the zombie virus was much faster than in the movies and TV shows I had watched before. In less than 10 minutes, the area downstairs had turned into a living hell. Bloodthirsty and crazy zombies, panicked and fleeing people, and continuous transformations. Recalling it again, I still couldn't help but tremble. I curled up in a ball, sitting at the computer desk, watching Deng Zexu and Lu Han change from wanting to go out to firmly locking the door. Apparently, they had also realized the situation now. Going out meant certain death. Sister Han, what should we do? What should we do now? Downstairs, that thing downstairs, is it a zombie? Deng Zexu managed to stutter out these simple two sentences in a fragmented way. As expected, he was still such a coward. Whenever something happened, he would cling to a woman for help. Lu Han was calmer than him. She closed the window and gave instructions. Go and check how much food is left in her house. With our combat power, we definitely can't get out. We can only wait for rescue. As long as there is enough food, we can hold out. Don't be afraid. There will be a way. Although Lu Han was saying words of comfort, her voice couldn't stop shaking. A moment later, Deng Zexu scrambled out of the kitchen, and every word he shouted revealed despair. Sister Han, that woman. She emptied all the food in the house. Only these are left and they're expired. I nodded in satisfaction. Deng Zexu had grown. He could even check the production date now. Not bad. At least he could count. Hearing Deng Zexu's report, Lu Han, who was sitting on the sofa, was silent for a moment and then suddenly spoke. Give me your phone. I want to call her. I always feel that she must know something. Half a minute later, the phone on my desktop rang. This time, I chose to answer. 10. You did this on purpose. All of this is a trap you designed. Lu Han came straight to the point and made a definite conclusion. Did you get the news in advance? Did you know that this virus would break out? Have you reached a safe house? Or are you taking refuge in a base shelter? The subsequent speculations were a bit ridiculous. But I didn't interrupt, and let Lu Han continue to talk nonsense. I had no obligation to clarify things for them, nor did I have such kindness. But what I didn't expect was that they took my silence as acquiescence. Jin Jiaja, the two of them started an unexpected performance. Perhaps there were misunderstandings between us in the past. There were no misunderstandings. You deceived me, and I was deceived. It's simple and clear. I believe you are a person with a conscience and won't leave us to die. Then you've misjudged me. I will. Back and forth. Lu Han and Deng Zexu completely lost their temper. Trying to play the moral kidnapping card? It's laughable. In front of such people, I have no morals at all. After teasing them enough, I simply came straight to the point. All I can tell you is that this zombie outbreak will last a long time, and the little bit of expired food you have is not enough to eat. With your abilities, you won't be able to go far either. If you want to live longer, you might as well start with the person next to you. After saying that, I hung up the phone. That dark seed originally came from their hearts. Now I just catalyzed it. 11. In the following 3 days, I refused to answer all calls, happily ate my small hot pot, and watched the reality show. As they became more and more aware of the cruel truth of the apocalypse, the words I said finally took root in their hearts. At first, perhaps due to years of habit, Deng Zexu still had some respect for Lu Han, calling her Sister Han, and trying to exchange his little yellow duck-like gratitude for food. However, Lu Han didn't buy it at all and directly retorted, "Save those few seconds of yours. Conserve your strength. There are still many long days to endure." In the past, Lu Han had painted various beautiful blueprints for Deng Zexu. Now that she suddenly told the truth, Deng Zexu immediately became angry. "I'm an artist. I should be given priority. Sister Han, don't forget that you're still counting on me to make money." Lu Han was good at making empty promises, but never believed in them. She was more realistic than anyone else, and retorted even more unceremoniously. "An artist? An artist who can neither sing nor dance well? Usually useless, and even more so in this situation. Counting on you to make money? The money you've made over the years has all been swindled from women. Now that there are no other women around, don't you have the delusion of setting your sights on me?" Obviously, she was going to completely break with him. With Lu Han's shrewdness, she couldn't fail to understand the current situation. The spread speed of the zombie virus was beyond imagination, and there was no way to solve it in a short time. Moreover, Deng Zexu's selfishness had begun to show, and Lu Han had no reason, and was unlikely to tolerate him. On the first day, perhaps because they weren't too hungry, the two of them tacitly didn't touch those expired foods. However, on the second night, the smart Deng Zexu couldn't hold back. He actually tried to steal some food, and hide it while Lu Han was asleep. With the zombie outbreak, Ibenlija slept restlessly. Now that there was an extended version night-time reality show, I naturally wouldn't miss it. What's more interesting is that I wasn't the only one who didn't fall asleep. Once the trust between the two was broken, disputes and calculations began. Deng Zexu was still sneaking around as a porter, when Lu Han was already standing at the kitchen door with a kitchen knife. The cold light of the kitchen knife was particularly eerie under the moonlight. The moment Deng Zexu saw Lu Han, his legs went weak. Sister Han, what are you doing?" Listening to Deng Zexu's trembling voice, I nodded in satisfaction. That kitchen knife was specially prepared by me. In addition, I also prepared some other little toys. Lu Han held the kitchen knife and sneered. "What am I doing? Is it what I want to do? Or what you want to do? Don't worry. These foods are all expired, and won't last a few days anyway. But what about an adult? Even if a bit thin, the body of an adult should be enough to last for a week or so, right?" Hearing the familiar words again, I tightly gripped the sheet in my hand, and nervously watched the confrontation between Lu Han and Deng Zexu on the screen. 12 peanuts melon seeds tea. I was busy preparing the essential items for watching the show, waiting for a killing to occur. Unexpectedly, just as Lu Han was approaching Deng Zexu with the knife, a rustling sound suddenly came from the door. I switched the viewing angle, and found that 2 security guards had sneaked over. This was a move I deliberately left behind. They didn't disappoint me, but the timing of their appearance. However, upon careful consideration, Lu Han probably wouldn't really kill Deng Zexu at this time. It wasn't that bad yet. Most likely, what she wanted to do just now was to scare Deng Zexu and give him a warning. In the quiet night, all sounds seemed to be deliberately amplified. Lu Han and Deng Zexu obviously heard the sound from the door as well. "Sister, outside. There's someone outside." "No, it could also be a zombie." "Sister, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Let's deal with the thing outside first, okay? Don't leave me." Deng Zexu's character of relying on women, when something happened, probably wouldn't change in this lifetime. At the moment, his begging was extremely sincere. Lu Han obviously didn't expect such an accident either. She gave Deng Zexu a fierce glare, and then carefully approached the door. "What are you afraid of? There's a lock. They can't get in." 3 seconds later, as if to respond to her words, the lock opened. Given the current situation, it wasn't surprising that these 2 security guards could get the key. Moreover, I had given them the key once before to help me carry the goods. "Brother Zhua, is this the house?" "Yeah, I helped carry the things with Xiaohu. That woman stocked up a lot of food. It's right here." "Then let's hurry up and get the supplies." "Are you stupid? At this time she must be asleep. Let's kill her and just stay here." "Right. The lights aren't even on. We can do it without being noticed." 3 seconds later, As if to respond to his words, the lights came on. What is it called when embarrassment's mother opens the door for embarrassment, and embarrassment comes home? This is it. When the two groups of people looked at each other, I finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. An apocalypse comedy? It's something. 13. It was the middle of the night. The security guard called Brother Zhua still had blood on him. In comparison, he had a more imposing manner. But Lu Han on this side was not to be outdone. She held the kitchen knife tightly. In this environment, if it wasn't necessary, no one wanted to get hurt, and no one dared to get hurt. Without medicine, without medical care, and unable to even get out of the community gate, getting stabbed by either side would be terrible. So one side stood at the gate, and the other side stood in front of the kitchen. Each side held a weapon, and started a confrontation. Brother Zhua, let us in. We'll split the supplies evenly. Lu Han, there are no supplies, just a bunch of expired food. Brother Zhua, I carried these things in myself. How dare you play me? Lu Han, I can let you in to check. We were also deceived by that woman, but you have to promise not to hurt me. She said not to hurt me, not to hurt us. Lu Han could always make the most beneficial judgment for herself in the shortest time, without excessive entanglement or unnecessary struggle. After saying that, Lu Han stepped aside to indicate that the other side could check for themselves. At the same time, her eyes were fixed on the two people, as if she would immediately go up and fight, if they dared to break their promise. There were no desperate gamblers here. At least those who could stand here all wanted to live. Brother Zhua took his younger brother into the kitchen to check, and then rummaged through the surroundings thoroughly before confirming that Lu Han wasn't lying. Damn it! Brother Zhua kicked the table next to him, venting his anger helplessly and swearing continuously. I could completely understand his anger at this moment, the despair of getting nothing. Brother Zhua, should we go back? The younger brother next to him asked with a trembling voice, looking on the verge of crying. Go back. Have you forgotten how Xiaohu died? Do you still dare to take that road again? Obviously, the two of them were going to stay here. I nodded. Although it was a last resort move, it was indeed the least risky way at present. But, looking at Lu Han with a gloomy look and Deng Zexu, who was lowering his head and not knowing what he was thinking, I always felt that there was still a lot to watch in this unscripted reality show. 14. It was quite funny. There were 4 people, 2 camps, and a 2-bedroom, 1 living room house. Dividing the house shouldn't be difficult. But in the end, they each became their own masters, and no one was willing to share a room with the other. Lu Han and Brother Zhua, the two with knives, each occupied a bedroom. The security guard's younger brother slept in the living room, and Deng Zexu slept in the kitchen. All the expired supplies were inventoried and placed on the balcony. The use of food every day had to be approved by the two with knives. It was quite democratic. Compared to their hard-scrabble days, my life here was much more comfortable. During this period, besides watching the show, I also started to cultivate the seedlings and learned 2 recipes. Protein, vitamins, minerals, everything the body needed was essential. Especially recently, I also started to learn Pilates, yoga, and do aerobics. Accidentally, I developed a 6-pack. I was in good health, in a good mood, occasionally wrote notes to cultivate my sentiment. By the way, I was looking forward to the development of the subsequent reality show plot. Their supplies were limited, and the harm of the expired food was very obvious in Deng Zexu. His constitution was originally poor, and after eating those things he had severe diarrhea. Moreover, without medicine, he looked sickly all day long. Lu Han had completely ignored him, and the 2 security guards looked down on such a useless person, and only thought he was dirty and smelly. As for why they still kept him, I guess that they probably regarded him as a kind of material reserve. Before it came to that, we all wanted to retain a bit of humanity. When it really came to that, between humanity and survival, everyone would make their own choice. I originally thought that Deng Zex's ending would be the same as mine, but after careful consideration, although it was said to be the same, there were still some differences. The turning point of the matter occurred on the 8th day. 15. In my previous life, I didn't live long enough, so I didn't know that the country brought hope material drops. On the night before the material drops, there was a special broadcast. China will not give up. The country will not abandon anyone. There is still hope. We are still here. These 3 simple sentences made countless people burst into tears. Immediately after, it was the location, time, and content of the material drops to be carried out the next day. Concise, to the point, and straightforward. I watched as Lu Han and Brother Zhua in the surveillance video put down the knives they were about to swing at Deng Zexu, and my heart was unusually calm. He would have his ending. If not now, then in the future. In fact, as I thought, this future didn't have to be too far away. It was tomorrow. Supplies couldn't be delivered to the door of every household. Generally, a more suitable point within a certain area would be selected for the drop. The nearest material drop point for our community was on the street 500 meters away from the community. 500 meters in the past was nothing at all, but now, it was extremely likely the distance between life and death. You 2 go to the material drop point to get the supplies. Lu Han and I will lie in ambush in the community. We'll make 2-hand preparations so that we can get more. Brother Zhua quickly made the task division. These simple 2 sentences fully revealed his craftiness. Leaving aside the hardships of the journey to the material drop point, just the scramble for supplies was likely to be a fierce battle. 15. He and Lu Han would lie in ambush within the community, where the risk factor was relatively low, and they could also reap the benefits without much effort. The other security guard wasn't stupid either. He immediately sensed something was amiss, but before he could say anything, Lu Han stuffed a dagger into his hand. Go with Deng Zexu. If you encounter any danger, push him out. I've given you the knife, and we'll also tie him up. What are you worried about? When we get the supplies back this time, you'll get the lion's share. Deng Zexu was like a human shield. The dagger was a self-defense weapon, and the supplies were a bait as a reward. Lu Han and that brothers were really coordinated well. Before long they set off together. Watching the 4 people disappear from the screen one after another, I felt a bit bored, and simply flipped through the zombie survival handbook at hand. I had bought it randomly before, and now looking at it, it was rather interesting. Some of the content in it was true, while some was false. The contagiousness of zombies was real, and the fact that they ate people was also real, but the claims of them flying, teleporting, sprinting, and flashing were a bit fantastical. Just as I was in a daze, half asleep and half awake, sounds came from the surveillance again. They were back. 16. Lu Han and Brothers were the first to return. These 2 scoundrels had clearly robbed others of the supplies they had Yi acquired. They were carrying a lot of bags, and there was blood on their bodies. Aren't we going to wait for them? What if they need backup? Should we go down again? Evidently, Brothers still had a bit of affection for his younger brother. Wait, the distance is only 500 meters, and it's been over 2 hours. Do you think they can still come back? This batch of supplies is enough. If you want to take risks, go by yourself. Fine, then we won't take risks. Brothers did have a bit of affection for his younger brother, but only a little, not much. However, what no one expected was that a dozen minutes later, the door was actually knocked. Standing outside the door was Deng Zexu. Deng Zexu had a huge machete in his right hand, with some pieces of flesh hanging from it, and in his left hand were 2 large bags full of food. I have food and medicine. Let me in. I can survive. I didn't know what Deng Zexu had gone through during this period, but at this moment, he seemed like a completely different person, like a devil. Lu Han and Brothers were obviously startled by his appearance, but the temptation of supplies was just too great. Who knows how long this damn situation will last? Who do you plan to send to get supplies next time? Let me in. I'll help you get supplies. You take good care of me, let me sleep in a room, and give me priority for food and medicine. At this time, what was scary was not that Deng Zexu was making demands, but that he wasn't. Sure enough, as soon as Deng Zexu said this, Lu Han's eyes lit up instead, and she nodded at Brother Zhua, indicating that he should agree. As the door was opened, I let out a deep sigh. Being too clever can backfire. Lu Han was really going to be ruined by herself. In this world, where did sudden awakening powers come from? More often, it was the hatred and revenge that sustained one's last breath. The moment Deng Zexu entered the door, I saw the bite mark on the back of his neck. 17. Based on past experience, the time from being infected with the virus to completely turning into a zombie was less than 10 minutes. Therefore, every moment from now on was high energy. My eyes were fixed on the surveillance screen, not daring to look away for a moment. After Deng Zexu entered the door, he blocked the view with his body and locked the door behind him. He swaggered into the room with the 2 bags of food. Before entering the door, he winked at Lu Han. Lu Han understood immediately and followed Deng Zexu into the room without saying much, leaving Brothers dumbfounded outside. In the apocalypse, so-called alliances were extremely fragile. Entering the room, Deng Zexu casually threw the 2 bags of food in front of Lu Han, as if they were garbage. Indeed, Deng Zexu no longer needed these things. No matter how much food there was, it was a waste for him now. Lu Han's reaction was completely different. She had long been fed up with the days of carefully calculating even the expired food these days. Now facing these foods, her eyes were shining. Zexu, it was my fault before. I didn't expect you to let bygones be bygones. Lu Han swallowed her saliva as she spoke. Although she was talking to Deng Zexu, her eyes never left the food for a moment. That was the instinct of humans, the instinct of hunger. You said before that you would make me famous. Was that true? You said that as long as I did those things, I could become a big star that everyone admired. Was that true? Deng Zexu's voice had already changed a bit, but he was still trying his best to control it. Of course. How could I lie to you? The first time I saw you, I thought you had potential. You look good. You're good at singing and dancing, and your acting skills are also not bad. Didn't I say that all you need is time? Lu Han really knew how to talk sweetly to people. She spouted one beautiful, irresponsible line after another. Deng Zexu was silent. His eyes had turned blood red, and the blood vessels in his eyes seemed about to burst. His whole body began to twitch uncontrollably. But there's no time left. As the last words were vaguely spoken, Deng Zexu suddenly pounced on Lu Han. He bit and tore at her vigorously, taking both blood and flesh. Lu Han didn't even have time to call for help before Deng Zexu brutally bit through her neck. That was not the strength that a human should possess. Even through the surveillance screen, the cruel and terrifying process of devouring made me gasp. 18. The devouring and chewing in the room continued, while Brother Zhua outside the room was clearly getting impatient. In his opinion, Deng Zexu had probably given all the food to Lu Han. His greed for supplies was no less than anyone else's, so naturally, he couldn't accept such a situation. After knocking on the door several times, Brother Zhua simply kicked the door and burst in. Then there was silence. Deng Zexu still had blood and flesh hanging from the corner of his mouth, as he made eye contact with Brother Zhua. Lu Han at his feet was already unrecognizable. The screams and curses in the room came again. Brothers was knife struck Deng Zex's body again and again. And finally, the last blow hit his head. However, even though Deng Zexu fell, it was already too late. The bite marks on Brothers's body doomed his fate. The person who had originally come to this room, to kill, and rob finally didn't make it out of this room. I silently turned off the surveillance, feeling extremely calm inside. 19. A few months later the broadcast about rebirth came. The surviving people walked out of their houses to welcome the sun after this catastrophe. After the communication was restored, I called my best friend he and I as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the situation on her side was still not optimistic. This zombie virus spread globally. Our country was the first to win this war. Besides protecting the surviving people in our country also generously shared the experience and methods of resisting the zombie virus. Under the conditions permitted, our country also sent support to some countries. Another month and a half later, the reagent specifically for the zombie virus was developed. This was a victory for all of humanity, and no one didn't cheer for it. When I talked to he and I again, both of us cried. It was a joy of survival after a disaster, and a gratitude for still having each other in the future. After making an appointment with he and I for the meeting time, she also asked me about things related to Deng Zexu. I had always had nothing to hide from he and I. I told her the key points. After hearing this, he and I also let out a sigh. However, no matter what the past was like, every day in the future was brand new. Sometimes death could teach us to cherish life even more.